Hello, friends. Welcome to the Coup Coach Cast with Jim Glogowski. I'm Chad Birger, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Dooyema. We will talk with University of Sioux Falls head football coach, Jim Glogowski, to discuss the Cougars' Week 4 game against Duluth and preview the upcoming matchup against Minnesota State Mankato. Special thanks to our sponsors, Atomic Wings and Unlimited Painting. You can watch this show every week during the USF football season on YouTube or on the USF Cougar Tailgate page on Facebook. Make sure to subscribe to our page on YouTube and sign up for notifications or follow the Tailgate page on Facebook. Well, guys, welcome back to the show. Good to see both of you this morning, but kind of a rough one for the Coup this weekend, Coach.
Yeah, obviously, certainly didn't go the way we wanted it to. We can coach better, we can play better. Like I told the guys after the game on Sunday, this is part of it, right? You sign up for this, and sometimes it goes well and it's awesome. But sometimes you're the head coach after you lose and you go to the press box and talk about the game, or you do the Coup Cast or the radio show, and that comes with the territory. And so we've got to own it, which we have, and we've talked about it. We watched the film yesterday with the kids, and yeah, we'll move forward and try to get better. There's a lot of football left in the season. It's not the end of the world. Like I tell them all the time, there's a lot better things in the world than winning a football game. There's a lot worse things in the world than losing a football game. It's hard when you invest that much time, energy, and effort, and you have such great support and people that are excited about you. And the thing that's disappointing about this past game is obviously a lot of excitement, 16 teams back, Hall of Fame, that kind of stuff, and you got a lot of people back with eyes on you, and you want to play well, you want to perform well, and when you don't, it's disappointing. And if it wasn't disappointing, that would be disappointing. But these guys are invested, they care, they've worked really hard, and we've just got to go back to work and get better, because the Mankato doesn't care, right? Nobody else in the rest of the schedule is going to feel sorry for us. And so go back to work and you put your best foot forward and you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and all those cliches, and let's get back at it. Let's go get better. Let's improve, and let's find out what we can do better.
Well, Sam, go ahead and take us through what happened on Saturday.
Absolutely. And we'll take that Monday motivation from Coach right there as we have to rehash Saturday a little bit, but this is the only way you get better. So Duluth getting off to a fast start. Cougars got the ball first. Unfortunately, had to go 3 and out, punt the ball back to Duluth, and Duluth went down the field quickly. Ended up putting 2 scores there in the first quarter. It was 14-0. As we rolled into the second half, Duluth tacked on 2 more. Offense just couldn't quite get into sync in that first half. Had some turnovers. And just a lot of long, I think Coach talked about this, but I know this was the big thing that I kept seeing, a lot of long down and distances, a lot of 3rd and long, 2nd and long. It just always felt like you guys were behind the sticks. It's 28-0 at half, and driving late, heading into halftime. Looked like, all right, 28-7, possibly you guys got down to, I think it was the 3-yard line, 5-yard line, and then a pick. And so it just kind of snuffed a little bit of momentum. Coach, what were you thinking at half, trying to get the guys keep their heads up and just kind of find that extra gear for the second half? It wasn't completely lost then, but yeah, that's a gut punch right there.
Yeah, it's you've seen this kind of script play out before on both sides of that, right? And so the previous week up at Bemidji, it was the complete opposite. It went our way, and you kind of get rolling, and then all of a sudden they can't get a stop, and you score again, and you just kind of pour it on, and you find yourself kind of just running out the clock in the 3rd and 4th quarter. And it was exactly the reverse script this week. They did it to us. And I think in a game like that, there was some opportunities for us to kind of punch back, so to speak. And unfortunately, we came up with a turnover on the second drive. Defensively, we didn't respond. It was kind of there was a bunch of things that went wrong, but we go 3 and out. We have a huge penalty that puts us in long yardage. We don't overcome that. Punt it away. We have a short punt. They get the ball at midfield. On the very first play, we've got a miscommunication. We get the safety linebacker, we have miscommunication, and the tight end gets down the sideline for 40 yards, and then they score. So 7-0, we get the ball back. We drive down the field again. I think that's when we had another turnover, and we got to probably punt the ball there and make them go 90 yards if we can, and pin them down deep and make them kind of flip the field position, and that didn't happen. I just felt like the entire first half, we were the ones with the long fields and long yardages, and that's you watch enough football to know that those things aren't going to play well in your favor. And I think our kids played really hard. I think they we talked at halftime about there's no 28-point play out there. You got to bounce back and make a play and get a stop. And unfortunately, they go down and score, and it's 34. And then I thought at that point, give credit to those guys. But at that point, probably they felt like the game was in control with halfway through the third quarter. And our kids continued to battle and posted a couple scores late, but at that point, obviously, it was too little, too late.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the second half, Duluth came out, got the ball to start the second half, went down, put a touchdown right on the board there, and then you're looking at 34-0. And again, it just ends up you're always playing catch up just from the start of this game. It wasn't one of those where it was a wave; it just kind of kept coming at you, and it was nice to see some of those young guys on offense. So in the fourth quarter, the Cougars were able to get some back there, 17-0, first field goal of the year. And then tacked on 2 touchdowns by both of your young quarterbacks. So that was great to see. And we'll take a look at some of these during the coaches clicker. Take a look there at 34-17 final score. And we'll get into some of the stats. Like I said, move the ball at times is just couldn't get those stops, and just all those things add up to 34-17 loss. Putting the Coup at 3-1 overall, 2-1 in the conference. Duluth kind of sitting in the catbird seat here, heading into their North Division schedule, remaining undefeated in the NSIC. So we'll break down this individual scoring summary before we get into coach's clicker here. As coach said, UMD started off that scoring quick plays. Here you see that there, 3 plays, 52 yards. Kyle Waljasper, 3-yard run after a big play over the top there, and then ended up getting another Waljasper run there to end the first quarter, making it 14-0 Bulldogs. Then second quarter, again, Waljasper, with the 1-yard touchdown run, capping off a 12-play, 90-yard drive for the Bulldogs. And then they got that last one there right before half, and 4-yard run, Derek Johnson. It's 28-0 halftime. Waljasper was kind of the guy. It kind of felt like 2016 Hall of Fame game. It felt like shades of Luke Papillion on the field a little bit. He seemed slippery. He just kind of doing what senior quarterbacks do in the NSIC. And just making you guys pay time after time. Even when it looked like you guys had him, he just found a way. So I imagine you were frustrated. I was frustrated as a fan, but I can't imagine how the defense felt.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's funny. You look at that scoring summary and short field, right? The first touchdown they scored was about 50 yards, and then we get an interception. They return it 50 yards the other way, so now it's 27 yards. Okay, so now it's 14-0. And then we get them stopped, quite frankly. We get them stopped, and we got them punting. And we got we have our safe defense. Our defense stayed on the field thinking that, short yardage midfield, watch for the fake. And, we had a chance to make the stop, and we just didn't make the stop, and they fall forward and get the first down. But that's probably 6 plays, 40 yards. Then you get the fake punt, and that's the other 40 yards or whatever. And I think that was our, as I mentioned to the guys on Sunday, the football god said, okay, Cougars, here you go. Here's your break. Here's a chance to get a stop. Because if it's 14-0 and you get the ball on the 40-yard line and you go out and score, because as you look at the time of possession, they scored twice. I think they scored every time they had the football for the first 6 drives they had other than the kneel down. But you can look at the time of possession there. So they had the ball there 2 drives in the first quarter. We still had the ball for 6 or 7 minutes. We just didn't. It was like a lot of useless yards, right? We didn't get any points to show for it. And I think that's frustrating in its own right. But we had our moment. We had our moment there. It's 14-0 in the second quarter, and versus a good football team, you have to kind of counterpunch. And after that fake punt, we had a chance to get the ball in a short field and go down and score and make it 14-7. Now you're talking about a completely different game. And that's how, and I try to explain it to our kids, that's how, these games kind of tip in the balance on those certain plays. And when you get an opportunity to make those are big time plays you got to make. And then again, they get the ball again on somewhat of a short field, 50 yards. I think we punted the ball and they got a bit of a 15-yard return. It wasn't, the punt wasn't as deep as it needed to be. And they returned it back 15 yards. And so now a 35-yard punt with a 15-yard return, it's a 20-yard change in field position. So in all 3 facets, offense, defense, special teams, we've got to get better. We've got to coach better. I've got to do a better job, obviously, of preparing them during the week. And that's what we'll try to do. I think this is a loss that we all wear. It's certainly not anything we envisioned. But as you can see, 14-0 after the first, 20 at half. There was some action in between there where we just couldn't get anything going. It was almost like we were stuck in neutral, revving our engine and not going anywhere. There was a lot of output, but not a lot of progress being made. And so, we've got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities when we get them and hopefully play better next week. And that's certainly something we'll focus on this week in practice.
Yeah, so we'll just roll into the second half before we head into the clicker here. As we mentioned, UMD coming out right after halftime. Waljasper doing his thing again. Another touchdown, capping off a 10-play, 71-yard drive, making it 34-0 all. Bulldogs headed into the fourth quarter. Cougars getting some back here. JT Frieders making a 37-yard field goal, capping off an 11-play drive for the Cougars, getting the first field goal of the year for USF special teams. That was great to see. And then we see two young quarterbacks getting their time in here in a game that kind of got out of hand, but it was great to see some of these young guys get in and show their stuff. And Christian Janis hauled in a 28-yard touchdown pass from Bennett Brick. Frieder's kick was good. And then Isaiah Manuel took in a 30-yard pass from Tate Schaefer. Frieder's kick was also good. So both young quarterbacks, both getting in the game, both having long touchdown passes to that stud receiving core. Exciting to see. Always good to know kind of what you got in your pocket. But that's still, like you said, a little too late. Final score 34-17. Bulldogs take it out on top.
Yeah, it was good to see those guys step up and make some plays late in the game. Obviously, the momentum, the style, the tempo of the game was a little bit different as you get into the fourth quarter. We had got down in the red zone a couple times, been turned away, an interception. I think we had a fourth down stop, and I just felt like it was a great opportunity for us to get some points on the board, get some momentum, get something positive going. JT, hit it through the uprights, which was positive. You certainly, do you go for the touchdown and try to keep chasing the points, or at that point, I just felt like we needed something positive to build on, quite frankly, at the start of the fourth quarter. Certainly not a quit in us, but you're looking at that from a perspective of, are you realistically going to have the ball for 5 more possessions to score 5 touchdowns? And the way things are going based on the previous 3 quarters, just felt like it was time to get some points on the board and hit the field goal. And then we got a couple stops and score, and that was positive. So, obviously a little too late for all that stuff, but our kids need to compete for 60 minutes and not scoreboard watch. And so that's the coaching point. That's you're constantly trying to build, right? And you're trying to win every Saturday, and that's the goal, is to come out with a victory. But when you go to practice, you go to play, you're trying to be better every play. And the hope is, in the process, as people say, if you attack every opportunity the best at your abilities, then in the long run, the results take care of themselves. Because if you sit there and go, well, what's the score now? And now what's the score? And what's the score? It can be overwhelming at times, and that happens. And so we're just trying to build it one play at a time, and that's how we're going to attack this week in practice.
Well, Coach, we're going to dive into the stats here in a little bit. But before we do that, I wanted to go over some of the plays, the big plays during the game. We call this segment the Coach's Clicker, and all video that we have here is courtesy of the USF Athletic Department, the NSIC Network, as well as our friend Sam Tastad sent me a few clips from Dakota News Now. So we're going to try to highlight some of those here as well. But the first one that I wanted to, start with here was a play in the third quarter, if I can get this popped up on the screen here. Hold on. Boy, technical issues right now. In the third quarter here, and this one's just a little crossing route to Hank. So I'm going to back it up just a little bit on this one. Start out here, and you've got oh, goodness gracious. It's not wanting to update on my screen. I'll just go ahead and click play and see what happens. Might have to remove it and re-add this. Sorry, guys. Technology is wonderful.
See, even technology is ready to move on.
Yeah. Well, let's pull up Sam Tastad's view here. So this is the one where he hit the crossing route, and then, Hank just doing Hank things downfield, making guys miss. No quitting this guy. I mean, he's out there, doing some good things. You can see Christian Janis coming to make a block on this one, on this angle, and Hank's just got speed. And then I still haven't seen a camera angle, Coach, where he stepped out of bounds, but this one was called back at the 34-yard line after review. But great play by Hank on this one, and good job by the Cougars.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of summarized our day, right? I mean, they finally get a huge play, and then you step out of bounds. I was standing right there, and I could see his foot was getting close to the white line. It didn't seem like in real time that it looked like he stepped on the grass, and his heel might have hovered over the white as he kind of pivoted. But I don't know if his heel ever came down. And that was me, like, right in front of it. And then when the officials reviewed it, they said that, on their angle, you can zoom in from the end zone camera. And he said that he stepped out twice. So, yeah, I mean, at that point, when it goes to review, and, obviously if I was them, I'd throw the challenge flag as well. But when it goes to review, if they're telling me that's what they see, you can't challenge the review. There's no let me go to the other guy in the booth and have him look at it. That's not how it works. And so, yeah, you live with the call, and you obviously, unfortunately, I don't think we came up with any points on that drive. There was another opportunity in the end zone. I think we turned it over in the end zone once. We overthrew the tight end in the end zone once. We turn it on over on about the 30-yard line going into score. So when you talk about being down 34-0, and there's 3 times you're inside the 30-yard line and don't get any points at all, that's how you end up 34-0.
Yeah, here's that original shot. So you can kind of see what happens here with the crossing route, and then Hank just making plays and making guys miss and using his speed. And, on this angle, you can't even see. I mean, the camera couldn't even keep up with him on this one. So,
well, and the thing about it is that's one of those plays, those screens where people say, well, it's pass interference, they're downfield blocking. But if the ball is caught behind the line of scrimmage, those guys can get down and block downfield. And so the timing of that's really important. And, the screen game's been good to us. And Hank's been a good player for us. He's an outstanding player. Getting the ball in his hands is something we want to do. And we have a lot of guys that can do something with the ball in their hand. I think that was the challenge on Saturday. We just didn't get those guys the ball in space enough to make something happen. And maybe they were letting up or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's a really nice run, 75-plus yards. That got called back after the last 30 yards or whatever it was. But, good to see those guys making plays late in the game.
And then here's another play that Sam talked about earlier. This one's in the fourth quarter. You got Bennett Brick in there at quarterback. Do you want to kind of set this one up? What does Bennett mean to the program right now?
Well, Bennett's a kid that's worked really hard. He's a redshirt sophomore. And then last year, he was the third quarterback as a redshirt freshman, which I know was frustrating at times because the third quarterback doesn't usually get a ton of reps. So he's kind of caught in that no man's land of not really being on scout team, but he was traveling as a third quarterback. So he wasn't getting reps in practice as a scout team quarterback, and he wasn't getting reps in practice as a third-team quarterback because Adam Mullen was solidified as the number 2 guy. And then this year, he's kind of battled back and forth with Tate Schaefer for the number 2 spot, and we feel like they're close enough that there probably is Bennett's the second guy, but Tate's a close third, or they're 2A and 2B, or however you want to look at it. So really proud of both those guys, how they've handled themselves. And to be honest with you, they've both made the most of their opportunities when they've gotten a chance. And I think he did a nice job running the ball in the first play, get us down there. And then I think this is the second play he's in, and does a really nice job with the play fake, gets back, sets his feet, and then he just kind of puts his ball up in a position where it's our guy or no guy, throws it out in front, and Janice runs up underneath it. And to be honest with you, we just felt like there was some opportunities there earlier in the game that maybe we just didn't connect on. And, you hit those shots, as you can see, it's a touchdown. You don't hit those shots and you're punting, and that's the name of the game. And all of our guys understand everybody contributes, all 11 guys, not just the quarterback and the receiver, but all 11 guys contribute to that success. And that's something that we're certainly going to try to focus on to be more productive next week.
Yeah, and tough point in the game here. You guys were down 34-3 before this play, but we got to get Caden Moss down there celebrating with him. He can't be running them back over to the sideline here, Coach.
Well, and I think that's, it's a great point you bring it up. And we talked about that after the game. And this is something that's real. You talk about managing life situations. How long are you mad for? Do you go in the locker room and break windows and kick in doors? Your family comes into town, they drove 6 hours to watch you play. Do you say, hey, forget you, I'm going to go home and go pout in my room, or do I go out to dinner with my family? And we talk about this all the time. And that's why when you sign up for this stuff and you say, I'm going to be a college football player, or I'm going to put myself in that arena where I'm going to get scrutinized for the result, you have to be able to handle it. And we fall back on, we have a big saying around here, as you guys know, winners win, because that's what winners do. Winners don't just win when you win the football game. Winners don't just win when it's going well. It was awesome being the head football coach on Friday night at a Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and everybody telling us how great we are, and you're going to win tomorrow, and man, you're doing a great job. It wasn't sweet being the head coach on the post-game radio show with Tom Frederick and Tim Hyatt. I got to answer why we got beat 34-17, right? Or how come you didn't score in the first half? And that's my job as a leader. That's my job where hopefully the experience. I've been in this situation before. I've been on both sides of it. You turn on college football on a Saturday, and Indiana just puts it on number 9 Illinois, or Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. And granted, those guys, their paycheck's a little different and their scrutiny's a little bit different, but I can relate. Nobody wants to go out there in front of 6,000, let alone 60,000, and not play your best football and then have everybody tell you how poor you are and how bad you are. I just told our kids, they're not bad football players. They're not bad people. We didn't play well. We played bad or whatever. We coached bad or poorly, but that's not fair to go be a clown or be a jerk to everybody you see because you didn't go the way you wanted it. That's called being a baby, a child. So, we certainly lick our wounds. We kind of feel bad about it for a little bit, but then I can't sit here on Monday or Tuesday and worry about what happened on Saturday. I got to put it behind us and move forward. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I cannot wait for the CougCast to be over today. I just tease it. Well, I mean, listen, right. I know how hard our kids work. And Duluth, they're on scholarship too. They work hard too. Give them credit where credit's due. They played a really good football game. They executed at a high level, and we didn't. And so that's why you play 11 of these, and you'll find out in November how good we really are. We could end up being 10-1. We could end up being 3-8. There's a lot of football left to be played.
So you mentioned Tate Schaefer as the other quarterback that came into this game later on. Schaefer came in and showed some impressive passing skills here, and on this one was able to hit Isaiah Emanuel for the touchdown.
Yeah, it's a nice play. It's really well designed, and give credit to him and Brent both. Tate's another kid, a local product. He's a redshirt freshman getting his first college reps. The idea being that this is going to pay off down the road, getting reps. But again, we also, and this is just being realistic about it, the environment at 34-10 with 2 minutes to go is a lot different than the opening kickoff. And so what a lot of people might say is, well, why don't you just go play those guys instead of Cam Dean, And I mean, that's like the world we live in, right? It's so overreactive one way or the other. Yes, these guys did a really good job. Yes, I'm really proud of those guys. Does that mean that these guys are better than our starting quarterback? No, that's why we watch the film and evaluate it, and we grade the film and all that stuff. Certainly, I don't think the intensity level was the same as it was in the beginning of the game, right? Or the pressure is not the same. But all that being said, it's an official college football snap, and both those young men threw their first college football touchdown passes. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So, yes, celebrate the success. I don't think you have to go crazy, and this is why I worry sometimes how guys celebrate success when it's going really well, right? Let's just keep it in the moment. Let's respect the moment, whether it's good or bad. But to your point, do we jog off the field and not celebrate because it's 34-9, doesn't matter? No, you still celebrate the guy doing something good, just like you pick a guy up when he does something bad, and hopefully the dynamic of the scoreboard doesn't change how we feel about our teammates' success and failures.
Yeah, and I feel like the offensive line did a good job of coming down here to celebrate on this one. You had some of those, you were mentioning the local guys, but Jack Zelazinski's in there on this one. You had Caden Mason. So some of the reserve offensive linemen getting in there at the end too. So it's good for them to get a little score, protecting Schaefer on this one.
Yeah, and you got Jack Merkwan made a big catch. He got his, some big time action for us, and those two guys catching the touchdowns at the end. We're not super deep at wide receiver. We're kind of living in that. Do we pull a red shirt? Do we play a red shirt type of situations with a couple guys? In hindsight, as I get to the middle part of the season or toward the end of the season, you can kind of manage those 4 games a little bit more because you only get 4 games to play in. But Caden Hinkes is a true freshman that potentially has been traveling but hasn't played yet. Do we put him in the game for 2 or 3 snaps? Those are some of the decisions that we're making on the sideline. But that's why, to some degree, we're still only playing 7 or 8 guys at receiver right now.
Well, Coach, I'm going to go back in earlier in the game here, and we're going to take a look at first quarter play. In this one, you guys had actually gained a first down on the first drive, but it was called back because of penalty. Ended up having to punt on that one. Duluth went down and scored. But you mentioned this earlier, Coach. You were driving on this second possession that you had and doing some good things. And this is one where I saw this play, and this is a short pass. Cam kind of scrambles around a little bit, but you can see how this middle linebacker is spying Cam on this one. And he wasn't going to allow him to get out and run. And so Cam did a good job on this one of finding Adonis Hutchinson for the first down. But
yeah, if you freeze it right here, okay, so this is kind of where we go with our football team. Okay, so we go 3 and out. We have a little bit of a short punt. They get a short field. They score. Okay, come back to the bench, settle down. Let's go move the ball. Let's get something going offensively. We drive right down the field. We got it 1st and 10, down 7-0 on the 35-yard line. If I pull that clip out on Sunday and I said, okay, forget about what happened after this, but if this is a normal football game, you're feeling pretty good. It's not like we kicked off, they went 90 yards and scored. We went 3 and out, they went 80 yards and scored. I think that's kind of the vibe, how it felt. But the reality of it is that between their touchdowns, there was opportunities for us to respond. It wasn't like they just shut us down and we went 3 and out every time. So you look at that as a coach and you say, okay, why did this not work out well? Well, we're sitting there at 1st and 10 at 35. Was the next play the right call? Did we attack the defense the right way? And that's where you try to grow, right? That's where you try to get better, because in that situation, if you're asking Duluth, if I stop that in the middle of the game and ask Coach Weesey, do you think you're going to blow these guys out 34-17? He's probably not thinking that at that moment. Their defensive coordinator is going, my gosh, this is exactly what we didn't want. Cam B, get out of the pocket and throw in the football. So it's at those moments in the game when you stop the film and you kind of evaluate where the game was at. I don't necessarily feel like at this point with 7 minutes to go in the first quarter that we're this football team that's not prepared. Yeah, we didn't start great, but I don't feel like we have no shot in this game. I don't feel the same way I'm going to feel with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter right now. And as a coaching staff, it's our job to say, okay, what can we do better? Because we're in control of the play calls and all that and the personnel. What can we do to try to create some more momentum and get this ball in the end zone or at least kick a field goal, right? And that's the challenge, because as you see how I think we understand how this drive unfolds. That's the one we threw an interception on. That's the frustrating part. And, even little things like on the interception, we got to rally and tackle that guy sooner. But this is the very next this is third down, actually. So it's third down, and we're in 11 or 12 yards to go. We're probably in 4-down territory here because the length of the field goal. So maybe this is where we hit the check down to the quarterback hits the running back on the tail of the Cougar here, and we get 6 or 7 yards, and now it's 4th and 4. Either way, the flow of the game, and then give them credit. They roll the pocket. They roll the coverage towards the pocket. The guy, they're playing 3 deep, 2 under. They're bringing pressure. Maybe we're just a little late on the throw. Maybe he doesn't get enough mustard on it. In Cam's defense, we don't do a great job of protecting him. If you could see the tight angle on this, he's in the quarterback's face, and that forced him to have a little less mustard on the football. So these are all things that it can't just be Cam Dean's fault. And then you sit there and say, well, gosh, the quarterback made a bad decision. Well, he did, but he's also, instead of stepping through and firing that football, we let the pressure get in his face, and he's got to short arm this thing a little bit. And then we got a chance to tackle him right there on the 35, and now they got to go 65 yards instead of 27 yards. There's so many things that happened that could have changed the outcome of this drive. All of a sudden, they got to go 65 yards. That's more yardage for them to make a mistake. We don't make the tackle because maybe we don't think that's that important of a play to make at that moment. Well, you live, you learn, and then the next time that individual gets that position, he makes maybe even a better effort to tackle him because he knows what happened the last time. But as in life, as in football with these young people, sometimes you have to, the greatest teacher is not success, it's failure. And we own that, right? And so all of us have to understand that in every single play, in every single moment, there's an opportunity to play our best to our potential, and we didn't. So it's great when you can learn that lesson and win, but that doesn't always teach you the lessons that you need. So, it's a really long-winded answer. I understand that, but I think the reality of it is that's the truth. And I'm really proud of our kids because they played hard. But when you're talking to a bunch of young people that want to do well and then they don't do well, in the top 25, all these flowers are being thrown at your feet. You can go from being at the top of the penthouse to the outhouse real quick. And that's not how life works. If I get fired from my job tomorrow, hopefully that doesn't happen. I can't go home and sit in the basement. I got a mortgage. I got a child. I got insurance. I got a family that depends on me. You move forward in a positive manner. And, that's just how life works. And so, yeah, I'm maybe upbeat is maybe that's not the right word. But for me, I'm really disappointed. I've taken my 24 hours just like when we win, enjoy it for 24. But I want our kids to say, okay, how can I do better? Then we got to go practice those things so they can actually execute it.
So I'm going to show you 3 plays coming up here, Coach, where I feel like you can see potential is there, but guys just weren't making the plays. So this next one, it was actually the ensuing drive. So Duluth has the ball. And on this play, your defensive line kind of gets double teamed, but, you can see it's going to be a dive right up the A gap here. And some guys kind of take some angles, maybe based on wall jasper and whatever else, but they just run it right down to the goal line on this one.
Well, I'll take you back. The play before was 4th and 8, and I think he scrambles.
Yeah.
We got to. So once again, the defense goes out and does their job, and normally in a 4th and 8 situation, they kick a field goal. Okay, so they felt the same way we do. You're in that no man's land. They go for it. We lose contain on the perimeter, and they get a first down. Then they come back on the very next play where they're in a hurry up mode, right? We don't get the check right, and if you saw the tight angle, the 2 defensive tackles go out, and the linebacker and the safety aren't on the same page. So when the tackles go out, the backer and the safety are supposed to come through the A and B gap and fill those 2 gaps. And you can see Garrett's the safety. He goes to the right. Andy steps to the left. It's about the worst thing. You couldn't draw this up any worse. And so, again, as coaches, we say to ourselves, okay, why were we in scramble mode? Why didn't we see the call? Where is the communication from the coaches to the players? And, sometimes when things are going poorly and you're kind of on your heels, quick, sudden change, they got the 4th down. We didn't handle it very well. So we got to put those guys as close to that position as possible during the week and hopefully rep it so that next week it doesn't hurt us again.
Yeah, learn from the film, right? That's the big thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all the good teams I've been around, nobody's gone from being a freshman All-American to just being dominant for 4 years. There's a learning process. This is a great example. This next play coming up here, the option is something that we worked on all week long, and the technique that we use to attack it. So, for example, the outside linebacker here wants to do what we call a feather technique. And number 33, Jay Koch, he sits at the line of scrimmage and waits for the quarterback because we're trying to buy time. The slower that 33 plays it, the longer it takes the quarterback to pitch it and decide, the more time it buys for the next guys to get to the pitch. So if you look at this, 51's right on the pylon. That's Isaac Rudnigan. He flies over the top to the pitch. Jake sits and waits, and then it's 3rd and goal on the 3. As much success as they had on the option, this time they don't because Jake sits there and he slow plays it. And this is probably the 6th or 7th time it happened in that game. He, quote unquote, finally plays it right where he sits, buys time. All the pursuit catches up, and it's executed perfectly. That exact same play happened multiple times earlier in the game, and it was a process of us getting that timing down to play it properly until finally we do on the goal line, right? So it's not like we never did it right. We just didn't do it right all the time. And that's frustrating like you cannot imagine.
Yeah.
It's like having an itch you can't scratch, Chad. Do you know what I'm saying? You ever had one of those in the middle of your back and you don't have a back scratcher and you're like trying to even rub up against the door jamb doesn't get it done.
Yeah.
So I cannot tell you how frustrating that is when this is a play and they come to the bench and they say, yeah, I should have done this. Now, if I knew why, I would sell it in a little glass bottle and I would cork it and I would go in a kiosk in the Empire Mall here. They still have the Empire Mall here? I don't know. I haven't been there. And I would have a little kiosk in the middle of it and I would sell this magic dust that came in a bottle that I could just bottle it up because I was so good at that. But that's not how it works. So on to the next play, Chad.
And this is the next play, and they pretty much run the same play the other way. But on this one, your defensive tackles don't quite get the same penetration, and he's able to kind of turn it up inside of there and score the touchdown.
Well, if you go back to the beginning, once again, so Isaac's out there, and this isn't Isaac's fault, but we're yelling, "Hey, kick the other way," because we know. I mean, this is the tough part that this formation. How they lined up, it's 4th down. We kind of anticipate this is the play we're going to get. So Isaac, you'll see him bump at the very last minute. He shuffles out. See how he looks over? He shuffled the wrong way. And then he says, no, it's the other way, Isaac, the other way. And watch at the last minute. You see that? Like, that's the stuff people don't understand. So, and we're yelling, hey, you got to kick. Long story short, we set the defensive line one direction. You set the linebackers a different direction. And that's how you kind of space out the defense, right? And so we're yelling, hey, kick, kick, kick. He kicks left. Then we're like, no, you're going, like the bad episode from Dumb and Dumber. You're going the wrong way. How does he know which way we're going? Because it's a one-way street. You seen that? I don't know if you've seen Dumb and Dumber, but anyways.
Yeah, we've seen Dumb and Dumber. Yeah,
that fits in well with me. But so he just kicks the wrong way and experience, and he did it great later on in the game. So, it's a process, right? And yeah, I wish he would do it right every single time. And you know what? He wishes he would do it right every single time. This isn't you are not a good player. This is you made a mistake, man. And we live and learn from it. And hopefully we don't have a bunch of guys make mistakes at the same time, and that alleviates big losses. But when you have a couple guys or a couple coaches make mistakes in the same play, and that's probably the most frustrating thing. So, of course, if we had a mailbag section here, they would say, well, geez, coach, what's it so complicated for? Or how come you can't get it right? And how come, you're right. Those are all things. After 30 years, you think I'd have it figured out. But every day is a different day. Every day is a new day. And that's why this is such a great opportunity to get better for this week.
Yeah, and you've got plenty of different opportunities here, like you mentioned. The guys can choose to either, hey, I'm going to learn from those mistakes that were made on Saturday, or not, and that kind of is going to determine the direction that the Cougars go this week and going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I wish I could just say, hey, do this, and then the kid does it right every single time. Or I wish, as a football coach, I would say, man, I should have seen that 3 plays sooner. I should have got that check 2 plays sooner. But that's not how it always works, right? It's, we've all made mistakes, and this is not life-changing mistakes. They're lessons they have to learn. But I will say this, how you correct the mistakes and how you treat the players, that will dictate how much they listen to you in the future. And that's where coaching comes in, right? We got to make sure that we don't lose our players in the correction process because we're frustrated. As fans, for that reason too, And I'm going to coach the way I coach. I'm going to try to be positive. I love our players. I don't want to trade our players now because they lost one game. We're a 3-1 football team that's got a challenge ahead of us, and we'll take it for what it's worth. They got to go to class. They got to go hang out with their significant others. They got family to talk to, and they got to be better football players. And we'll address all those things and have a better Saturday.
Well, Coach, you did bring up, that'll conclude our Coach's Clicker segment for this week, but you did bring up the 2016 team going into the Hall of Fame on Friday night. You were at the banquet. I was at the banquet. It was great. Luke Papillion was up there as an individual, the 2016 team. Luke got a little choked up during his speech, and so that was, it was just a great time, great environment, lots of great individuals. But did you get a chance to talk with Durant?
I did. I actually told him that I love the commercials, and he was very appreciative. I said, thank you for being a title sponsor along with Atomic Wings. Shout out to those two sponsors. I said, we even have commercials. It's awesome. And it was great to see him. And it was great to see that whole class. I think, the one thing I took from it, and I actually sent a text message and a couple of photos to Jed Stugart that, the cool thing is he should have been sitting there, not me. That was his football team, obviously. But the thing that we have talked about, he and I, is that those teams don't happen by accident, right? There's growth and development, and it's crazy. That 2016 team, I think they went, correct me if I'm wrong, did they go 12-1, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, and so I went back and looked at it. Did you know that team the year prior went 9-3, and one of their losses the year prior was 44-3 at home on Senior Day?
We're not going to talk about that, Coach.
That one is deep in you.
Mankato. We're not. Yeah, we don't need.
That's deep in lore, Coach. That one is. Yeah,
which is my point exactly. But that team rebounded back from that tough loss, and maybe you didn't see the results of it until the following year. They still made the playoffs, I believe, that year.
They did. Yep.
But the point being is that you never know how it's going to go, and the irony of that whole thing is, in 2016, I was the defensive coordinator at Minnesota State, and I played against that Sioux Falls football team. That day, on that November day when we played them in 2016, I'm almost going to say, I think I actually even remember the actual date. I'm going to say that date was like there was maybe 2 or 3 games left, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm pretty sure that was Saturday. It was like October 29th. It was like right before Halloween, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, they came to Blakely Stadium, just like this team's going to do this weekend. And they put it on us, 24-14. And if I'm not mistaken, they ran for, my God, it seemed like 1,000,000 yards. I think it was closer to 350 yards. But that was a very tough loss for me that day. Little did I know that would be the last conference loss I would suffer at Mankato for almost 4 calendar years, which is crazy. So I guess my point is that when you have one of these losses and it seems like there's a lot of despair, you have no idea what that's building for the future. And that's how I choose to look at this. There's a lot of positives ahead of us. And just like that 16 team had a tough loss in 15, they had 26 seniors come back in 16. That 4-year class of guys didn't win every single game. There was a process they went through. And that's what we'll continue to do here is believe in the process and attack it one day at a time.
They actually all started as freshmen in 2013 with a certain senior, and we only went 6-5 in 13. But that's why that 16 class was kind of special, because I had two of those freshman O-linemen right next to me, starting on the O-line, and they kind of had to start somewhere. So it was fun to see the growth of that team by 2016. And it had nothing to do with me, but you talk about taking your lumps. Took a lot of lumps. We had a freshman Luke Papillion that year, learning how to play the game. So he was fun to block for. He was fun to block for then too. So he was just figuring it out. He was just still a young gazelle. I think that was his nickname for a while from a lot of the broadcasters, and he was still, I think, kind of figuring it out then.
Well, it was
that class was impressive. There's no doubt. They were 6-5. Then I think they went 11-1. Right.
Yeah, we don't talk about 14 either. That's
won the Mineral Water Bowl in 2014.
You talk about 6-5, 11-1, 9-3, and then that's a lot of football games. There's a lot of talent, and it's awesome to see those guys have that kind of success.
Well, it was great to see those guys. They did an awesome job, at the Hall of Fame banquet. It was good to see them all at the tailgate party and the game on Saturday. And Durant Foote, one of the members of that class, he talked to me very extensively this weekend, and he's just ecstatic about this relationship that we have with the Coup Coach Cast. Unlimited Painting is his company. You can reach out at 605-403-9222 and get your free quote. We're going to play a little commercial from Durant right now.
Hey, Sioux Falls and surrounding areas. I'm the owner of Unlimited Painting. Our licensed and insured crew delivers professional results on time and within budget. Not only are we quick, easy, and affordable, but we're going to transform your space with lasting impressions. Unlimited Painting, professional, dependable, and done right the first time. We're offering 15% off any exterior project. Give us a call now for a free quote.
Make sure to reach out to Durant at 605-403-9222, 605-403-9222, or visit their website at unlimitedpaintingsf.com, or hit them up on Facebook. Unlimited Painting will take care of all of your interior, exterior painting needs, staining, cabinet painting. They can seal your stamped concrete patio if you want. I spent a little time out on my patio on Saturday night after the game. Get a fire pit going, enjoy that outdoors. Call Durant, get on the schedule for this fall. He'd be happy to take care of you. All right. Well, next up, guys, we're going to move into some of the stats here. Sam, lead us through the statistics.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, this is going to be the worst moral victory, those useless yards you talked about, but USF outgaining Duluth 405 total yards to Duluth's 379. We already got into some of the short fields and stuff, but ultimately only one stat matters, and unfortunately that was the score. Getting it done through the air, 291 yards for USF, 128 for the Bulldogs. But yeah, they outrushed USF 251 yards on the ground for only 114 for the Coup. Pretty clean game. 3 penalties for 15 yards for Duluth, only 2 accepted penalties for USF. 20 first downs, 22 first downs. Third downs, 4 for 11 for UMD, 7 for 15. Pretty decent stats. However, UMD was 4 for 4 on fourth down. Some of those are just some really timely points in the game, I think, from theirs, and only 1 for 3 for USF. Time of possession ended up about even. And we look at some of the individual statistics. Cam Dean, 16 for 29, 193 yards. Unfortunately, had the 2 picks on Saturday, the first of the year. And Isaiah Emanuel, 4 receptions, 85 yards, had that touchdown there at the end. Hank Brown Jr. had 5 receptions for 76 yards. Christian Janis hauling in 4 receptions for 42 yards, also tacking on that touchdown there in the fourth quarter. And Adonis Hutchinson had 4 receptions for 38 yards. Switching over to the defensive side, Jordan Medrano leading the way with 6 total tackles as well as a TFL. Then you see Preston Yonke there as well as 6 tackles. Andy Henson, Cade Morse, Garrett Hoffman, Isaac Runnigan, seeing those linebacker core there, having in those 5 total tackles. Then the 4 leading the way, as well as Kane McWilliams. And then Isaac Runnigan picking up a interception as well with a 27-yard return, leading the way there for the Coup defense. Coach, close the book on Duluth, on to the Mavericks. You're probably ready for it. Don't worry. We can finally start talking about the Mavs. Any final parting words, or we can look ahead here for your players of the game. But otherwise, yeah, I think we're ready to start fresh. The goals are still ahead of them. I tried to remind the guys and kind of told them to head up. It's easy for me to say as a washed up alum, but there's a lot of football left to be played, and we're looking forward to being a part of it.
Yeah, and once again, I tell our kids, I'll tell you how good we are in November, right? At the end of the regular season, we'll decide how good we are then. We'll decide if we met our goals or not. It's really, you got to be in this kind of insular mindset of week after week. And you can go through the history of Coup football just the last 10 years, and there's some tough losses in there, and the guys bounce back, which is what winners win means. And that's something, when you get into these situations, you got to hang on to the people that believe in you, and you got to hang into the things you believe in. And we believe in the winners win. It was said several times that night. I think when you're grasping for answers, sometimes it's the most obvious right in front of you, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to coach them up. They're going to play hard. We're going to go practice again, and we'll see what we can do on Saturday. And no matter what happens Saturday, we're going to go back out and do the same thing again next week. And that consistency is something that we need, and that's something that we have to do. And, you can get caught up in saying, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart. I have to win on Saturday. And then all of a sudden Saturday becomes this huge momentous day, when in reality, it's just a checkpoint on the entire season. And so you have 11 checkpoints. Obviously right now there's some things we pulled into the garage. There's things we have to work on. We'll address those things, and then we'll try to be better on Saturday. I don't have I'm not a fortune teller. I'm a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday, but I know that we're going to work on the things that hurt us on this past Saturday, and we'll try to be better. So excited to get back out there. There's nothing better than getting back out to practice, because you can get rid of that bad taste and focus on a new opponent.
Well, Coach, we'll break that down here in a little bit, but before we do that, we do want to mention that Atomic Wings is back as a sponsor of the Coup Coach Cast this season. Atomic Wings is still located at 1502 East 69th Street in Sioux Falls, just north of the USF Stadium. There's a new Sioux Falls location at 3217 South Sertoma Avenue, just across the street from Roosevelt High School. Atomic Wings offers customers fresh, never frozen, natural, and hormone-free chicken wings, hand-tossed in one of their awesome proprietary sauces. The food from Atomic Wings is the perfect complement to football season. Also take advantage of weekday lunch specials. You can get 3-piece tenders, sandwich combos, boneless wings, all kinds of good stuff, Monday through Friday from 11 to 4. The menu includes traditional wings, boneless wings, chicken tenders, sandwiches, or flatbreads. There's also a wonderful selection of sides. And don't forget the fried Oreos for dessert. Huge portions, excellent selection of food, and a sponsor of the Coup Coach Cast. You can't go wrong. There's something for everyone in the family at Atomic Wings. Order online at atomicwings.com or come in. Nearest location to the Cougar Stadium there is on 69th Street, just north of the USF football stadium. Perfect for pregame tailgates or postgame celebrations with friends and family. And as we do every week, we do have some Atomic Players of the Week for this week. And so we've got coming up here, Coach, Christian Nash on offense.
Yeah, you lose 34-17. You got to kind of search because obviously there wasn't a ton of great performances, but I thought Christian really stepped up, and it is more or less the reps that he had was at a higher level than it had been and continue to improve. Cade Morris, I thought, played really physical all night long, was really solid, did a great job as far as defending the tight end vertical. Number 88 had really caused some problems for people, and he helped kind of minimize 88 for the most part. And then JT Frieders, his first college field goal, and once again was 2 for 2 on extra points. I thought he had a positive day. And then scout team players of the week. The crazy thing about both these young men is both these young men had some setbacks as far as physically during the week and bounced back, came back to practice, missed a very limited amount of time. But both Gavin Sleezer and T. Silling, 2 young players, 2 true freshmen. Gavin's out of Iowa and T's out of North Dakota. Linebacker, T, and then Gavin's a tight end, kind of H.J. back type of player. But both those guys are great young prospects, and they're working their tails off.
And Coach, these are their profile pictures from the website, right?
Correct.
JT Frieder's hair is just glorious in this one, man. That guy's got a good head of hair on him, doesn't he?
He's got some phenomenal locks there. It's not only full of body and life, but it also is shiny and has a sheen to it. You don't find a lot of hair like that nowadays.
Yeah. You don't get that kind of analysis anywhere else but on the Coup.
Obviously, mine is gray and scratchy and more straw-like, so that's probably a byproduct of my lifestyle. But yeah,
well, and mine's so thin on top that I started wearing a hat this season, Coach. So I don't want people commenting about the shiny glare on the reflection from my head here. So yeah, I do okay down here, but up top it's not quite what it used to be. So let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about Mankato this week. Game 5 preview. USF's going to be over at Mankato Saturday, September 27th. Blakesley Stadium, just a great turf to play on, grass turf. It's really cool. I know last year when you guys were over there, a bunch of the guys had their shoes and socks off and were kind of like feeling what it was like to play on grass a little bit, Coach. But over in Mankato, kickoff scheduled for 2:00. You can watch online on the NSIC network. You can also listen on KWSN, 1:30 pregame show. Tom Frederick, Tim Hyatt, and Chad Birger. I'm just going to try to figure out again how to make it onto a road game broadcast, but we're going to try to make it happen. And so that's what we're expecting this week. As far as things go, USF, we mentioned, defeated Mankato last year, 40-36 in just one of the epic battles, but this isn't 2024. Now we're in 2025. Mankato, wrapped up the rest of the season and actually finished out really strong. They lost in the national semifinals to an old friend of ours, Tremaine Jackson's team, in the semifinals last year. But so far this season, Mankato has a 3-1 record. They beat Northwest Missouri State handily in the opening week of the season, 38-14. They beat Minot State 34-16. They did lose a tough one to Duluth in week 3, prior to USF playing Duluth. But then they bounced back this past week and beat Jamestown 36-7. Todd Hoffner, Coach, you're very familiar with Mankato. You're very familiar with Coach Hoffner. What do we expect to see on Saturday?
Well, I think you're going to see a big physical offensive line. 2 quarterbacks. You're going to see 2 different quarterbacks more than likely. They're younger quarterbacks, but they're very talented. They both are exceptionally talented in the run game. They both have a really good idea of where to take the football in the passing game. Their running back situation, Sam Backer seems to be the lead running back right now, but I know Carter Henderson has gotten some reps too. But I expect it to be a 3-headed monster at running back between Sam Backer and the 2 quarterbacks carrying the football. I think it's your typical Mankato team. Honestly, play action, going to run power and gap schemes and stuff like that, and some zone stuff, and get the quarterback involved in the run game on the perimeter. The 2 receivers they have, their lead receivers are outstanding, maybe the best duo in the league with Trayshawn and Watson and Grant Guyette. Very familiar with Grant. Recruited him out of high school at Omaha West Side to Mankato. So for me, now as I'm getting into my third year away from that program, which it was a great experience for myself and my family, had a lot of fun. Coach Hoffner certainly gave me a great opportunity, and I'm appreciative of that. As I move forward, this will be the 3rd time we faced them. Ironically, the 2nd time in a row we've been at Mankato, and ironically, the 2nd time for their homecoming, which is kind of weird. But it is what it is. That's all part of it. So I expect a huge crowd. They'll be all fired up. I know they'll have redemption on their minds. And if I know Coach Hoffner, like I know Coach Hoffner, that'll be a big part of the fuel as far as these guys came in here and beat you at the Blake last year and don't let it happen again. So that's certainly some motivation, some extra jet fuel in their tank that they'll be, flying on. So we got to be prepared for that. And then defensively, Todd Taylor is the defensive coordinator. He and I worked together for a short while. Graham Hevel, those guys. Lavelle Jackson, our friend Lavelle Jackson, is now gone. He's at Lindenberg with Jed, so he's no longer there. So, like a lot of things in life, as you get further away, the dynamic changes a little bit. So there's still some guys on that football team that I recruited, but there's fewer and fewer nowadays. So it's not maybe the same as it was the first year when they played us here in Sioux Falls. But, defensively, they're primarily a 4-down front. They've got a really talented back end. They're really deep on the back end from corner to safety to linebacker. They play a lot of guys. They're big and physical up front. They do a really nice job of keeping the ball in front of them and making you earn everything. And so, obviously we're going to have our work cut out for us. It is a unique surface. It's one of the greatest surfaces I've ever seen or played on. In my 3rd year now here at Sioux Falls, this is only the 2nd time we've ever played on grass, and we don't practice on grass because we're on turf all the time here. So that is in itself a unique situation, but it's such a beautiful surface that it feels like you're playing on turf as far as the feel, and it's certainly not lumpy. There's not much of a crown. It's a great surface. They do a fantastic job up there. They always have, and they always will. And even when the Vikings left, they still maintain that. It's beautiful. Not only that, they have beautiful grass practice fields. I think they have 3 grass practice fields outside of Blakesley, and they have an indoor turf bubble. So, those guys have a lot of opportunity to get on different surfaces. So for them, it's no big deal. For us, it'll be a little bit different, but I don't know that our players will sit down in the middle of the 2nd quarter and say, wow, this grass is really strange. We've all been on grass before, so we'll be okay. That won't be a reason why we play well or don't play well. But, I'm expecting a really physical ball game. We've got to do a great job of controlling the football, making plays when they're there, and then not beating ourselves. And this is nothing different. It's almost a broken record. I can just hit play, right? You got to win 3rd down. You got to take care of the football, and you got to run the football. And then when you get opportunities to score in the red zone, you got to try to get touchdowns instead of field goals. And that's the goal. And I think this will be a situation where we're going to have to try to get touchdowns and not settle for field goals. I think that's the kind of game it's going to be. And if we want to come out successful, we're going to have to prevent big plays from happening and make them earn everything. And we certainly cannot afford to give them a short field, whether that's on a punt return, a kickoff return, or just turning the ball over on our own end. We have to make them go the length of the field as much as possible, make them earn everything. And between us making plays and them making mistakes, we've got to be able to shorten out some of their drives. Because they'll lean on you and they'll wear you down, and then they'll just pound on you. And then by the time you get to the 4th quarter, you're so worn out that then they just, take quick scores, and now the game's over with and you're going home sad. So looking forward to it. If you're a competitor, this is what you want. You want to get back up off the mat and go attack somebody who's talented. They'll be a top 20, 25 team, whatever they are in the country, and very much deserving of that. And we're going to have to play well.
Coach,
go ahead, Sam.
No, yeah, I was just I'm going to second the turf. So shout out to the Minnesota State Mankato maintenance crew there, both as a player in college, but also in high school. I got to play on that field in November, and it was immaculate then. And that was for a playoff game. You mentioned it, and I just wanted to, I don't want to build up the hype, and I'm not trying to do this, but I think it's a fair question of, you got the road trip to Mankato out of the way last year. Was that kind of, like you said, the time is kind of passed a little bit? Does that in your head a little bit? I can almost sense it in you. You kind of answered my question as you talked through it, but I wanted to ask you, of like, your homecoming to Mankato is kind of already done. I know you spent a lot of time there. You were around that program a long time, and I'm not building hype. I think that's just it'd be a weird feeling rolling up to the stadium for the first time. Like, I used to work here for how many years, and that's done now. Is it easier now to move past, like you said, you just can focus?
Yeah, it's I'll put it to you this way. Like, aside from two football teams and two programs that respect, but probably, in a football mindset, don't like each other or whatever, all that kind of stuff that people want to make about it. Todd Hoffner gave me an opportunity, and I'm very appreciative. I had a lot of fun there, a lot of success, a lot of great times in my coaching career happened in Mankato. Played for a national title. There was a stretch that, going back to that 2016 loss to Sioux Falls, there's a stretch there where we did not have, we didn't have a loss in the regular season for over 3 years, and then COVID happened. So it was almost 4+ years we didn't lose a conference game while I was at Mankato, which is unheard of. 37 straight, 38, something like that wins. So there's a lot of positives. I have memorabilia in my house that is because I was at Mankato. But when you're the head football coach or when you leave a job, it typically, you're not going back to that place on their homecoming to a place where my son still lives in Mankato. My daughter just moved to the Twin Cities, but they both graduated from Minnesota State. My wife, I don't know, I think people know this, but she still works at Minnesota State Mankato. Ironically, they had their kickoff luncheon at the beginning of the school year, and KEYC, I think the local network, interviewed my wife at this luncheon because of what she does there. She's the director of the Workforce Simulation Center there. So it's kind of a unique setup, but it allows her to still kind of be in two places at once. So, my 3 oldest children graduated from Mankato East High School. I watched my kids play on that field in high school, East versus West High School. So, that part of it is not going to change. My son-in-law's family still lives in Mankato, right? But it's not so much that, because when the headset goes on and kickoff happens, I am so worried about our players and what we've been through, especially last week. It's fun to go through the fun stuff, but it builds that tighter bond when you go through the tough stuff. And we went through a tough game on Saturday. That was very disappointing. We didn't want to play that way. So there's no doubt we have not only myself, but obviously Isaiah Emanuel. Isaiah Emanuel played against us last yeere, and that's kind of the nature of college football. Cam Dean played and wore that jersey and helped those guys win games when he was a freshman. There's some other guys that, were recruited and were committed there and whatever, and now are here and all that stuff. So, as you get further and further away, there'll be less and less guys that I recruited that came here, or that transferred that I recruited from Mankato to come here. And that's all part of it, but it's unique. I try to enjoy it. I'm appreciative of the life that I've had. I'm very blessed. I've been in a place where we had success. I'm at a place right now where we can have success, and we've had some success, and it's had a lot of success here. So I don't take for granted that I'm very fortunate to be the head football coach here. I'm just blessed to be in this position to go back and have those experiences that are positive, and when the game's over with, we'll get our pizza like we always do. We'll get back on the bus and go home and go on to the next week. And that's how it was last year, I should say. They're going to be motivated because they lost to us at home on their homecoming last year. They don't lose very often on homecoming, especially under Todd Hoffner. They don't lose very often at Blakesley Stadium, period. They haven't. I think it's something like 10 losses in the last 90 games or something at home. They've had a lot of playoff games there. So it's a tough place for anybody to go play, let alone us. So again, whether we're wearing purple or white or green or yellow uniforms, that doesn't matter. We've got to walk in there. We've got to take care of the football. We've got to run the football well. We've got to have some big plays. We've got to permit them from having big plays, and we got to do our job. But I can promise you this, other than pulling up and maybe walking through the gates the first time or being in the locker room for a few minutes at the beginning, I don't sit there and say, oh, man, this is really weird being back. It's not. And then after the game, it's a little bit weird because there'll probably be some alums there that played and I coached there. They'll probably come up and say something, but that's a little bit unique. But aside from that, my family will be there. I'm sure both my kids will be there, my older kids. So I'm looking forward to seeing my children. I've got my oldest is 25, my daughter's 22. You know how it is when your kids get older and they go off and they live on their own. You don't see them very often. So I'm excited to see my family after the game, but that's pretty typical for any game. But I'm just blessed to be in the situation I'm in. I'm looking forward to going back and competing against a really good football team. And just like with Duluth, you want to measure yourself against top 20 teams. If we're a top 20 team, we have to beat top 20 teams, right? And that's the opportunity that we didn't get accomplished on Saturday. Thankfully, we have another opportunity this Saturday. Let's see what we can do with it.
Going a little Ric Flair there. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo!
Yeah, it's all good. I'm just like I said, I I probably told this story before. My dad spent 31 years in a factory making the lids to Spam cans, and they pay me to do this. Like, I'm the luckiest guy around, right? So you can't just be lucky when you're winning. I don't think that's not how it works. You can't just be blessed when it goes your way. Everyone's blessed to get their scholarship offer, right? You see it on Twitter, but nobody's blessed in the middle of fall camp on day 13. So it is what it is, right? Let's take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. It's always a rowdy environment over there in Mankato too. Tailgating scene is awesome. I know, Sam, we've had some really good tailgates over there previously. But I hope they beef up security a little bit. There's some seating in the end zone, on the one end zone, kind of by the little berm there. And last year I was walking down there and some student tried to start a fight with me. So I was like, I hope they beef up security a little bit. I'm not trying to fight any college kids this weekend.
They do a really good job. They do. They from Kevin Beisman, the AD, all the way down. Got a lot of friends over there in that department, but Dan Rickbeal, the equipment guy, shout out to Dan and Shane in compliance. There's so many great people over there. Tim, there's so many great people. Like, they do a great job. It's a great game day, and it'll be a great crowd. It'll be homecoming. It'll be packed, and that's the cool part. You want to play in those environments. You don't want to play where there's nobody at the kickoff at noon because they're all doing something else. You want people that care, and they care in Mankato, which makes it unique.
And the other thing is, there's a lot of Cougar alumni that live over towards the Twin Cities, or on that half of Minnesota, and a lot of them make it to the Mankato game as well. So it's always good to see some of those guys. Hopefully we can run into some of them this weekend. So make sure to tune in this weekend, Saturday. If you're not able to make it, I mentioned it's a 2:00 kickoff Saturday. You can watch on the NSIC network or listen online on KWSN. All right. Well, I think that does it for another episode of the Coup Coach Cast. Thanks to Coach Glow, Sam Dooyema, everyone else that helps contribute. For Coach Glow and Sam Dooyema, I'm Chad Birger. Until next time, go Cougars.